and welcome.
Today we have a special guest, the one and only
Ross
Ross Welford.
What's inspired you to become a writer?
I wasn't really inspired. You'll be sorry to hear. I was forced into it by the prospect of unemployment. So I was not doing any work, and I was going to be unemployed for a while. And I thought I better write a book or do something like that.
What is your favourite genre to read, and does this influence your writing?
I don't really have a favourite genre. I have favourite authors, and I've got stuff that I've got stuff that I don't like. You'd be surprised to know I'm not that keen on science fiction, because a lot of people think Time Travelling with a Hamster is a science fiction book, and when I first heard somebody describe it as science fiction, I was really taken aback, and I was actually a little bit hurt. I thought, it's not science fiction, but of course it's got time travel in it, so it's obviously science fiction. But I hadn't written it with the intention of it being science fiction. I like historical drama, and I like contemporary crime, but not detective novels.
Where did you get the idea for your book, Time Travelling with the Hamster?
I've always been interested in space and cosmology and stuff like that, and for years and years I've tried to understand theories of relativity and things like that, because I'm not a natural scientist, and so I've read countless books like, Relativity for Dummies, and they're still too complicated for me. And I was fascinated by a thing called the grandfather paradox, which means that time travel can't exist, because if it did, you could go back in time and murder your own grandfather or father or whatever. That would mean that you would never be born, therefore you couldn't travel back in time to carry out this murder. And I've always thought that was a fascinating idea, and I wanted to explore it in fiction. So when I started writing it, I didn't know what the answer would be. I didn't know what would happen to Al. I sort of had an idea for an ending, but I really didn't know what the adventures he would get up to would be.
Okay. Do you have anybody that you looked up to, and if so, why?
Anybody I look up to? What you mean writing wise? In writing terms, I'm deeply, deeply jealous of people who have produced lots and lots and lots of books. People like Enid Blyton. Not all of who I know is a local here, or was. I'm in awe of her output. Some of it, reading it as an adult, you think, okay, you could have reworked that a bit, but that's just me being fussy. I think anybody who can produce books that quickly is a genius, and I'm also massively in awe of J.K. Rowling, because I think anybody who could think up, as she says she did, think up an entire 6 or 7 book series or whatever it is, from start to finish, and know what's going to happen at the end, and know that Harry's going to defeat Voldemort and everything. I wish I could do that.
Okay. As your first book has been very successful, are you planning to write any more?
Yes. Yeah, success is very addictive, and it's really, really nice to have people say that they like it, and have people buy it and everything. It's lovely to do that, and apart from wanting to write another book, I've got to, because I've signed a contract that says I have to.
If you weren't a writer, what would your career choice have been?
Oh, crikey. You know what I would have loved to have been? I'd have liked to have been a cartoonist. I stopped doing art after O-level, which is what you guys do, GCSEs. And it's always been a slight regret. I still do cartoons, I still do drawings for my own amusement. But I think if I hadn't been a writer, I would probably have liked to have been a successful, famous cartoonist.
Yeah.
Okay. Was Al, the little boy in your book, influenced by your characteristics as a child?
Oh, no, not really. I can't say what. I was. Al's a good lad, so yeah, so was I. I was a nice kid. I like to think, but you have to ask my parents. But the truth was, but no, I don't. I think it was more influenced by. It's more influenced by the boy I would have liked to have been. I think I'd have liked to have been adventurous and resourceful and clever like that, and I wasn't really. So it's a bit of a fantasy. I wish I had been more like Al.
Have you got tips for budding young writers?
Yes. Right. That's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing you can do. And also finish it. That's the thing. So it's not just young writers. It's older writers as well. So many people that I know have started off a book, and then they go, you get stuck, and I know what it's like, because I did this with Time Travelling with a Hamster. I started it, and I got stuck, and I put it in a drawer. Well, not literally a drawer; it was a file on my computer, but a virtual drawer. And I stopped it, and I stopped writing it, and then I forced myself to write through the barrier, the difficulty. And the point about the point that I would make to anybody who's wanting to write is it doesn't have to be good the first time. It just write. If you come to a bit where you don't quite know what happens, just skip it and move on to the bit where you do know what happens. Get to the stage where you type the end, then you can go back and reread it, and you think, that's what can happen there, that's what can happen there. But make sure you type the end.
Was it hard to get it published?
I was very lucky, or very fortunate, I don't know what the right word is. And it's not really a very good example to budding writers, because the answer that writers are supposed to give is that prepare yourself for a lot of rejection. And I think that is usually the case, because not everybody, you'll send it off to publishers and it may not be right for them and everything. I was very fortunate in that virtually the first publisher I sent it to said that they wanted to publish it. So that's not typical. Don't get ideas. Prepare for rejection.
Do you prefer to plan your story bit by bit, or write it off the top of your head and then edit it?
A bit of both. But there's in writing circles, in some writing circles, you can be a planner or a pantser, which means you plan it or you fly by the seat of your pants. And I'm more of a pantser. I like to know roughly where it's going, and I like to know what the ending will be. But the bits in between, they often surprise me as much as the reader. I mean, the twists and turns of Al's adventure, I really don't remember planning them very much at all. Some of it just happened literally as I was writing, and I would read it back and I would go, how did that happen? And then of course in the editing process you can go back and rewrite it.
Thank you for visiting our school.
It's been my pleasure.